There's no Ugandan I don't like. I love all Ugandans because they buy my products. Even if I was not religious, loving them because of God, but even for my own interest. Jesus was the Son of God, but he was also a great teacher. Before Jesus, there had been other religious leaders like Moses and others who had taught to the Jews very many things. The Ten Commandments, the what. But when Jesus came, I think he realized that when you talk about too many things, people don't get confused. That's why he said, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and the rest will be added unto you. Trying to show what is the main point. There are so many points, but what is the main one? Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and the rest will be added unto you. Then when it comes to the commandments, he said there are two great commandments. Love God with all your heart and all your might, and love your neighbor as you love yourself. He says if you get these two, the rest will be easier for you to understand. Now, this is the same issue. When you see what people are talking about, leaders of this one, of that group, you can see that people can get lost and fail to know what is core. The NRM, from our student days, we are telling you, on the side of development, seek ye first the homestead incomes, and the rest will be added unto you. This is what we have been telling you. However, you hear people talking about roads, about what, all this. Even if those assets are there, but if you don't resolve the issue of homestead incomes, you're wasting your time. And you can address the issue of homestead incomes even when the infrastructure is not so good and you find people have income. At one time, Ubundubijo was cut off from Fort Portal. There was no good road between Fort Portal and Ubundubijo. And that's when ADF attacked the Ubundubijo people. But when we went there to fight, we found the people had good incomes. Although the road was bad, they had cocoa, they had coffee, they had apple and rice, they had palm oil. All those could be transported to Fort Portal, even on a bad road, because they are not so delicate. They were not such delicate products. Cocoa, if cocoa is dry and coffee is dry, even if the road is not so good, you will transport it and get money. And palm oil. So therefore, I want again to emphasize the issue of homestead incomes, the issue of wealth creation. This part of the world, there is also a cultural problem. Some of the people don't know our history very well. But this part of the world is really mainly a place of wealth creators. In the villages, if you don't work for wealth, they call you a chirare, a vagabond, if you don't work for wealth. This is our culture. So much so that by the time the Europeans came here, They found a lot of wealth here. I have asked my people to get me some quotations. Like, for instance, because our own people are not writing, so we depend on oral history. But these foreigners who came here first time wrote. Here I have got a quotation from Huntington Speak in his book, The Discovery of the Source of the Nile, by John Huntington Speak, on page 128, in quotes. Going on with the march, we next came to Ndongo, a perfect garden of plantains. Perfect garden of plantains. The whole country was rich, most surprisingly so. This is a foreigner who had never been here before. The same streaky, agaricious sandstones prevailed as in Karagwe. Karagwe in Tanzania. He had been to Karagwe in Tanzania and he had found the same gardens like now he found this. By this time he was in Uganda now. There was nothing, in fact, that would not have grown here if it liked moisture and a temperate heat. It was a perfect paradise for Negroes. That's what he writes. So it was a perfect paradise for Negroes. As fast as they sowed, they were sure of a crop without much trouble. Though, I must say, they kept their huts and their gardens in excellent order. This is 1862. 1862. This is like almost 100 years ago. This is a foreigner. Finding wealth creators here. Not loiterers. Now, that was Huntington Speak, 1862. Talking about what he had seen in Karagwe, Tanzania. Now he's talking, by this time I think he had entered Uganda. Now, then a few years later, in 1889, another European, Henry Morton Stanley, writing in the book in Darkest Africa, Volume 2 by Henry Stanley, he writes in quotes, crossing a narrow neck of land, descended into the basin of the Ruizi. The Ruizi is this river in Mbarara area. The Ruizi. By degrees, the misty atmosphere of this region was clearing, and we could now see about 5 miles distance, and the contour of the pastoral plateau of Ankori. It was not by any means at its best. I think it was like a dry season. It was well into the drought season. He's writing in Old English. The dry season had commenced 2 months previously. Hilly range, steep cone, hammock and plain were clothed with grass ripe for fire, dry grass. The herds were numerous. The cows were numerous, and all as fat as prize cattle. All as fat as prize cattle. In the valley, we had passed over 4,000 cattle of the longhorn species. The basin of the Ruizi, which we were now in, and which was the heart of Ankori, possessed scores of the finest herds of cattle I had never seen before. This is a white man writing about you people, about your ancestors, wealth creators. That is, you can see them there. Those are the Ankole cows. Some of the people have woken up and they are bringing them back. Now, during the colonial time, this is our history. This is our culture. During the colonial times, this potential was either underutilized or distorted. You underutilized because by independence, the British were talking of the 3 C's and 3 T's. That's what the economy of the colonial Uganda. 3 C's meaning coffee, cotton and copper, and the 3 T's, tea, tobacco, and tourism. So then I asked them, but why do you only talk of 3 C's? How about the other products? How about milk, those cows, those huge cows? Why were they not producing milk? Why was Uganda importing? In the 1950s at Ntungamo, in the Indian shops, I would see small tins of tinned condensed milk from Switzerland, from I don't know where, in Ntungamo. Here we had cows, but we were importing milk. Maize, there was some maize called maize meal from Kenya. Uganda was not growing maize commercially. They had told us that this is not a cash crop. The cash crop is tobacco, is tea, is coffee, but not milk, not maize, not bananas, not cassava, not millet. You can imagine. Somebody stops you from growing food and he encourages you to only grow beverages because coffee is not a food. Coffee is not a food. Coffee is a beverage. It is something to kuomereza. But it's not food. How can somebody stop me from growing food and he just encourages me to grow? I can grow beverages, but in addition to food. But somebody to tell me that I grow only beverages, I forget about food, you know that person is not your friend. So, then cotton, but why not? And we're importing all these other very crucial products, especially for the towns. In the rural areas, of course, people were eating their cassava, their bananas, but in the towns, maize meal from Kenya, because the European whites were the ones growing the maize in Kenya. Milk from I don't know where. So when we started our resistance as a student movement, we analyzed all this. And we pointed it out. We pointed out from the 1960s that we must go back to the politics of the economics and the politics of wealth creation. This is the politics of the NRM. We always tell the people, all of you, be wealth creators. Reject the politics of parasites, of sectarianism. Because parasites are the ones who, because me, a wealth producer, there's no Ugandan I don't like. I love all Ugandans. Because they buy my products. Even if I was not religious, loving them because of God, but even for my own interest. They buy my milk, they buy my beef, they buy my bananas. How can I have any Uganda whom I don't like? But then you find that even the Ugandans are not enough, the market of Uganda is not enough. We need the regional market. So that's why our politics, inevitably, because we were on wealth creation, we had to automatically be patriots in Uganda, love the whole of Uganda, and Pan-Africanists, love the whole of Africa. And then we told our people, that's how we evolved the 4 principles of the NRM: patriotism, Pan-Africanism, socio-economic transformation, and democracy.